our secretary, Madam Shweta Prasad, also she is also very important in terms of organizing and motivating all of us to organize such kinds of programs. And of course, without a delay, I think, and Professor Maitri Chaudhary, okay, she has been helping us to organize such kinds of programs, whether it is online and offline, and some in consultation and collaborations and things like that, and interactions with the eminent sociologists and the workers and activists and so on. So prior to this, Madam, we had organized on behalf of our RC the program on this development and displacement and development without a kind of maybe the recognition by Walter Fernandez. Okay, so long 3 4 months ago, and then now we have also thought about that we can have series of lectures on the social transformation and development, because this is the timely relevant topic, and we need to deliberate and we need to discuss and what all those spaces that we need to enhance in the coming years also, maybe because you will be speaking more little bit about the way forward also. So now I would like to formally begin this session with your permission on behalf of RC-29 Social Transformation and Development. Madam, can I start? Because most of the participants have joined, I think near about 30. They have joined online, and they are sharing screen also with some other students as well.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vinita ji, हम शुरू करें?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So on behalf of RC-29 Social Transformation and Development, I would like to welcome Professor RAKSHA for this today's important guest lecture. Professor Vinita Lal ji, all the professors, dignitaries who have joined today's lecture, and my students and scholars and research scholars, especially from TIS Jaipur, as well as a lot of other universities like BHU and UP and Bihar and all places across the country, they have joined this today's lecture. I think I would like to introduce first today's guest speaker, or we can say our very well-known friend and very well-known sociologist also from Jammu, University of Jammu. Professor Raksha, she is a head of the Department of Sociology, University of Jammu, convener of the Board of Studies, convener of the NSS program, director of Center for Women's Studies and NSS program several times. Plus, she has more than 25, 27 years of experience in teaching, research, and collaborative research with the national and national international universities. Plus, she has an expertise in the areas like that gender studies, marginalized groups, subaltern studies, especially research methodology, folk and media studies, political sociology, and so on. So, if you see, she has developed and supervised more than 25 research scholars, including MPhil, PhD, and all at various levels. Publications, yes, I cannot go into these things, only the numbers are enough. I think more than 25 articles, okay, journals and books, and several books has been published through NCRTs and so on. And of course, a member of various, life member of various organizations like Indian Sociological Society. Of course, one of them is very important. Northwest Indian Sociological Association, Women's Studies and Comparative Education Society in India, then ethnographic and folk cultural societies. And there are many more other associations that she has been, and a very, very active member of this Indian Sociological Society. And we are really, I'm really fortunate that, and we all are, that to have a Vishwaraksha today with us. And she is going to speak on the topic that we have formulated within a short period of time, but she has accepted it generously. Gender challenges in local governance institutions and way forward. And this is very important topic. Why I'm saying, because there are a lot of people who are working on the local self-governance, and there is a reservation. And as we know that how it has came into place, like there was a debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar, and eventually it was put in the Article 40 of the Directive Principles of the State Policies. Then we had a legal kind of and constitutional support as per the constitutional support in terms of 73rd Amendment and 74th Amendment. And we have a lot of maybe the created the opportunities for the disadvantaged sections of society, or we call it the marginalized sections of the society. And especially the processes in which reservation is one of the important agenda, and the periodic elections, and then reservation within the reservations also OBC, because post 90s there was a reservation to the OBCs also, that was also recognized. But initial enthusiasm could not succeed, okay, due to the various reasons and various other problems also. But eventually we could have it in place, and there are now more than, I think, 2 decades. We have been celebrating the spirit of that local democracy, or the grassroots democracy, okay, non-party political process, as Professor Rajni Kothari used to say. So we have been focusing on gender budgeting, gender-centric budget, or the gendered citizenship, or reservation for women in Panchayati Raj, and especially the Dalit women's and SC/ST women's, okay, the contribution in the panchayats, and developing the good democratic decentralization, and creating an enabling environment in which people can have their rights and exercise their rights, and assertion of the rights through the panchayat programs and so on. So basically, three things are very important to discuss in today's, okay, devolution of the power, delegation of the power, and decentralization of the power. And without those decentralization, we cannot have the things in place. But at the same time, policies as well as the financial assistance is also very important. Like three F's, funds, functions, and functionaries are also equally important. And while dealing with all these things, there are a lot of challenges and bottlenecks has been faced by the women sarpanchas and the members of the panchayats in the 73rd Amendment and 74th Amendment, and the rural and urban bodies as well. But still, they are empowering each others, they are taking care of each others, and spreading their wings, okay, and reaching at different heights by providing independent institutions and challenging the existing unjust and unequal relations also. So now, with this background, Vishwaraksha madam, now it's over to you. Okay, once again, welcome. Thank you very much. And now over to you. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Sampat. This, of course, is a personal pleasure. So let me first place on record officially my sincere gratitude and thanks to Indian Sociological Society and its Research Committee 29, which is on social transformation and development, which is right now. I'm so happy to kind of see and also, feel happy about this, that Dr. Sampat Kale, who was such a wonderful, a colleague, someone who was a junior with me in University of Pune, Department of Sociology, that, he is heading it, in the sense he's the convener. Dr. Vinita Lal is here, who's the co-convener. So it's wonderful to see young and two people looking after the research committee. So as Professor Maitri, our president, always says this, and I always kind of support her, saying, we know that sociology is in safe hands and there are enthusiastic people who are taking it forward. So as I said, Dr. Sampat, with whom I do not just have professional kind of rapport, but I also have a personal, very friendly, very cordial kind of a rapport. Mala Marathi etat, okay? So Marathi binds us. So when he told me, I think he sat through one of my discourses on local governance somewhere. I was talking about gender and local governance. So he kind of liked it because I was taking some of my field experiences, and I was sharing them somewhere. I think one of the universities in Punjab. So he kind of asked me, Ki, will you be able to share it? So we've been kind of talking about it, discussing it. So finally, when some days ago, when he told me, Ki, we really need to now fix it. So I said, okay, fine. So this is the day that we decided that we'll have a discussion on some of the ideas that I have and some of the ideas that probably some of you sitting here would add on to our discourse and discussion. And also this comes in with a also a wonderful feeling of, as he said, I am associated with Northwest Indian Sociological Association. I am really thankful to all the colleagues and members of my association who've actually elected me as their president. So I also feel a little humbled that this becomes my responsibility to talk about what's happening in this area of our country, to be shared with others who are sitting and researching on areas related, or maybe other areas, but are interested in this. So I look forward to a great session, seeing a lot of young people, students, scholars, colleagues sitting here. As Sampath has titled it as Gender Challenges in Local Governance Institutions and Way Forward. So basically, I am dividing it into, let's say, a six-part kind of a presentation. 45, 50 minutes is not enough for people like us. All of us know this. I'll try to be. I'm going to first look at uh, local governance, both rural and urban, a bit of it. I won't go in details. I'm also looking at both of it because I've done research, I've kind of collaborated on research, supervised research on both the governances, the rural and urban. So we've looked at the presence of women in both these local governance institutions. So first, I'll just try to touch on that and also mention the 73rd and 74th Amendment. Number three, I would want to slightly touch upon and also discuss the concepts of empowerment, representation, and participation. Linking all this later when we talk about way forward and also in between to the whole very, very important concept of reservation and quotas. Also, because I want to talk about challenges, the gender challenges. So I would want to highlight, this is the number four, the fourth part that I'm going to touch, challenges, namely, of course, we know with tops is patriarchy, gender role ideology, public-private dichotomy, proxy, token, symbolic women, women's subordination, gender division of labor, seclusion, low levels of mobility, lack of information and negotiating skills, intentional, low self-image, stereotypes, lack of confidence, lot of myths, marginality of women, resource constraint, all these together. I'm going to touch briefly on some of these, and I find them, the challenges are immense, but these are some of the very important challenges. Then, of course, I'll in between illustrate it with some of my own field experiences. And then when we talk about the way forward, I would want to talk in terms of reservation, positive discrimination, and the quotas. This is how I have planned it. But I want to open my presentation with a dialogue. Are you a sarpanch? Yes, she replied. No, I mean a sarpanch. Yes, she replied again. Not a member of panchayat, but a sarpanch. Yes, of course, I understand. And I am a sarpanch. This is the conversation taking place between an official and the only woman sarpanch out of 46 sarpanches of block Udhampur who was attending her maiden meeting, wherein her newly acquired position as a sarpanch was received with a surprise. She was asked thrice about her being a sarpanch to confirm. And this has happened also for a reason that she was able to reach at that position without any reservation. So of course, all this was spoken to me in our own dialect. I've translated it for the purpose of everybody sitting here. So imagine we live in a situation, in a governance kind of a crisis that we face, where even if not just women, even people from other communities wherein they've not got the opportunities to be at decision-making bodies, when they come to the top positions, people see it as a surprise. They take a lot of time to accept it. So I thought this was one incident that I should be sharing with all of you. Now, governance, and as I said, I'll just begin with that, is the process of making and carrying out decisions. Participation governance is the core of any successful democracy. Public involvement in decision making on day-to-day basis enhances the quality of governance and promotes transparency and accountability of the decision makers. And we all, and I'm located in a state where we have the lowest number of women representatives if you talk in terms of panchayats or municipal. So we are almost at 33.18. This is Press Information Bureau data. There can be, slight changes here and there, but we are located at the bottom. So imagine being located at a place where although now we have reservation, there are elections which have taken place because of reservation, but still the number remains low. So women's presence in governance is something which is very, very important. And there are over 1.45 million women shaping local decision making now in India. And women leaders, they are a critical link between local governance, sustainable development, and gender equality. And however, across the country, their contribution to local governance remains undervalued. I think we some of us might disagree on this, but largely I assume that most of us would agree on this, that it does remain undervalued. We don't acknowledge, we don't recognize the kind of contribution that women are doing and can do. Today, women are changing governance in India, and the presence of large number of women representatives in the institutions of local governance in both rural and urban India is truly an extraordinary phenomena. And we all are aware of that there are older women, there are younger women, there are educated women, there are less educated women. I know of a case in Rajasthan. I'm sure all of you who are doing some kind of study on this area would know this. A young girl who's done her management, she left her job, came back, fought elections, became Sarpanch in Rajasthan, and is bringing in a lot of change, which is because of her knowledge and also going back to your roots and trying to bring in the change where it is required. So they are changing. And of course, this is because of the 73rd Amendment and 74th Amendment that has happened in our constitution. We all know there are possibilities that have opened up with 73rd Amendment giving us the reservation at the panchayat level in the rural governance, and 74th giving us reservation in the urban governing body. Now, bringing these women into politics was an act of positive discrimination, but crucially, these governing institutions have helped to change women's perceptions of themselves. Women have gained a sense of empowerment by asserting control over resources, officials, and most of all, by challenging men. We'll again, we can again kind of agree on this, that till late, the politics, even now, but till late, it was absolutely seen as a male domain, a domain which was predominated by men. Now also there are more men and less women, and also the whole kind of question that is there, that who are these women who are in politics? I'll come to that as well. But then, yes, women are gaining confidence by being able to assert themselves in a sphere which is generally seen as a male dominant sphere. Also, these institutions have given many women a greater understanding of the working of politics. So, staying away from politics and not being able to know and understand anything. And let me also share another anecdote with you, which I had with my helper at home some years back. She had asked me one fine day, it was election day, said, and at that point of time, we would never give a chutti for election day. हम कहते थे जैसे भी हो आ जाओ काम करने. But she said, and I've been a very conscious woman, so she asked me for a chutti. I said, okay, go ahead. You want to go? Such a politically conscious woman wants to go and vote. Okay, take a chutti. But I told her, take a half day chutti, vote and come back. She said, okay. And I said, come back and tell me. So she comes back after voting, and I asked her, where did you vote? She said, wherever my husband told me. So I said, okay, where did your husband tell you to, vote? So I wanted her to tell me the party. She did not tell me the party. She told me the symbol. So when she told me the symbol, because she had stamped that symbol, and at that point of time, we had stamps. We did not have EVM. So I said, okay, you've stamped on this symbol. What does this signify? She says, I don't know. I said, whom did you vote for? Who is this person having this symbol? She said, I have no idea. So I said, why did then you go and vote? She said, my husband asked me to come and vote. So I am talking about this kind of a system wherein women have no clue that how this power of vote, works. Of course, we have moved a lot. And I was talking about 2.5 decades earlier, but now we've moved a long way. Lot of women are becoming conscious. The reason for their becoming conscious also is working of politics. And also, let me share this, I don't know, because this would be the ulta. my inspiration to work on panchayats is book by Bisakha Datta, Who Will Make the Chapatis. Okay, and this is a study of all women panchayats in Maharashtra. And uh, uh, if one reads through this, and of course, if you read other very important books by Nirmala Buch, Pamela Singhala, there are a lot of great work done on MP and Rajasthan and Kerala and Maharashtra and all that. So if you read that, you will understand that now that whole consciousness or importance and the working of politics is reaching women through their experiential learning. This experiential learning is coming only because they have got entry into this arena where earlier they could not. So some women's involvement in these institutions have helped them affirm their identity as women with particular and shared experiences. Their self-perception arises from two sources: from women's own sense of their shared experience and from attitudes and imagery imposed on them by the men. So both the experiences count. And women definitely have opened up the possibility for politics to have not only new faces, but a new quality. Increasing the representation of women has not automatically led to a more gendered analysis of the issues confronting local government. So we cannot just assume and say that more women are entering, more women have come in, so things are all fine, things are all okay. Women are facing their own set of challenges. Um, Here, I would like to bring in the whole concept of gendered governance as well. That, gendered governance needs to be seen not only the large number or larger presence of women in these institutions, but also in their effective, meaningful participation, bringing women's concerns and perspectives in their working, and to that extent, transform them, however slow this transformation may be. Okay, quickly now I would want to move to the concept of empowerment, representation, and participation. But before that, I would want you all to understand and remember, if some of you have read Dalrup's work on critical mass, and Dalrup says the uh, the women representatives in politics has a critical mass. So he talks in terms of critical mass, whose presence should not only ensure the descriptive representation of women in terms of their presence, which I just said, in the political and governance landscape, but also result in substantive policy change for the empowerment of the female population. So, like many other countries, India has also adopted gender quotas as a means to address this whole, to take away the historical imbalance that we've always been facing. So, in any case, coming back to where I said, I want to talk a little about, let me first say, when I say local governance, how are women coming in, especially both in urban and rural, and then talk about participation. Women are key players. I mean, remember, because our presentation is about the gender challenges, and remember, we are talking of the gender which has had less opportunities, less privileges, and has not had that space in this arena which the other gender has had. And I'm not touching in this presentation about the other genders and the third gender, because we all know that they have started participating in the governance institutions as well. So women are key players at the local level, both in household livelihood strategies and domestic management. They are usually, but they are usually excluded from critical decision-making processes. And governance is wherein, as I just said, critical mass is required for good governance, because key elements of good governance include, transparency, protection of poor people, or even protection of why just people, protection of environment, protection of other resources, etc. Their good distribution, balanced distribution also. And we all understand that it has only been lately that opportunities have opened up and they have been widened for all people to contribute. and not exclude them but include them. So exclusion of women was taken away, and then in the the whole governance process, women were included. So now this included takes us to participation. Because they started participating, there is this whole idea of representation that has to be there of everyone. So representation not only is not only a means of ensuring individual participation, but it is also the responsibility of the representatives to act on behalf of the constituents, including women who elected them, and reflect their ideas and aspirations. So one, when women participate at step one, wherein they vote, they elect. Number two is when they actually contest and they are elected. So even at step one, where women have shown faith, where women have come in. I mean, yesterday only Maharashtra and Jharkhand actually underwent elections, and how many women came out, and how many others. Although I wasn't very happy with the percentages, only 62 and 68 for Jharkhand. I think Jammu and Kashmir was much better with 70s, as average. But yes, women did vote, and I've been following Maharashtra elections very closely, wherein I saw all that Ladki Behan thing, and all that was going on. So the underrepresentation of women in the political sphere is linked with the low and inferior status of women. We all understand patriarchy um, is deep entrenched in all these institutions as well. So it's linked with that. Of course, it also gets linked with number of women not available, declining sex ratio, increasing violence, and increasing crimes against women, their marginalized status. We all understand status in terms of employment, in terms of health, in terms of education, etc. So participation has long been acknowledged as a central theme of democratic governance, where the citizens enjoy the right to participate in governance in a political structure where freedom and equality are granted. Anyways, coming quickly to political participation, which has both a narrow and a wider connotation, but not going in detail, I would quickly say participation in the urban local government institution has been viewed as essential, and even in the rural institutions has been viewed as essential in promoting women's consciousness and development at the local level, as well as training them. And this again is a very important point I want to raise, training them for participation in the wider politics. So let women start at the local level, and then you find women to contest at the higher level. Now that we are looking at the next general elections, where we would have 33% reservations for women both in parliament and assemblies, and something that I have been voicing in wherever possible. And I've been with the women's movement, where we've been asking for this reservation with a firm belief that till the time women actually become part of the final decision making body, there is no point bringing in women on board on any other policies and programs. But in any case, the training part is also very important. And in broader sense, participation in politics goes far beyond electoral politics. And when I say it goes far beyond, it takes me to the whole idea of women's empowerment. So we are not just doing it narrowly, that when women get trained and when women get this whole power, or whole understanding of that they are capable of taking decisions. Remember, they were denied the whole right to vote, and there was a suffragette movement where they were seen as women are not rational, so why let them vote? They can't choose someone to govern, they can only choose other things. And women had to fight to say we are equally rational. So I think Indian women have been very fortunate that when our constitution came in, it gave us equal rights. Of course, the implementation and other social realities have brought in the disparities, but then women have been very fortunate that we've been seen as rational beings. So it prepares them for the larger things. So women's empowerment comes in. So it begins with her consciousness, with her perception about herself and her rights, her capabilities, and awareness of her gender, and socio-cultural, economic, and political forces that affect. Being a woman also is an identity that we are negotiating with every day, and still be able to find space where beyond that identity also you are able to be, or you are seen as capable. So these governing structures, then that means provide Indian women a space to actively participate in the political process and eventually, as a consequence, become an empowered person. So, decision making, implementation, and monitoring and supervision. So these are, where women are involved. These are basically the, I would say, the something that constitutes the steps, or I would say the variables which are there in these governing institutions. So identifying problems, allocating resources, carrying out activities, managing operating programs, and maintenance of records, physical and financial progress of projects. See, these are the things that are involved in these governing institutions. And when women start doing that, imagine asking them to move from chool and mool, you know, asking them to move beyond thinking in terms of how to run home. So if they are good at managing household activities, let us give them a chance that they would be as good. And we are seeing that they are as good. But then the point that comes in is how the set of challenges for one gender and the other gender are different. Quickly coming to empowerment. Empowerment is something that really interests me because one has to also understand what is empowerment. Empowerment doesn't mean that I'm educated, I'm empowered. Empowerment doesn't mean that I dress up in a certain urban, fashionable way, so I'm empowered. So that is not empowerment. Empowerment is their full participation on the basis of equality in all spheres of society, including participation in the decision making process, access to power, and these are the fundamentals for achievement of equality, development, and peace. So, if I have to enlist, and I would use Griffin's work wherein he says that characteristics of women's empowerment include: one, having control, organizing further control; two, having a say and being listened to. So, बोल तो सब ले रहे, कोई सुन भी रहा है क्या? So that's also important. Three, being able to define and create women's perspective. So if after almost 30 years, and Sampat would, bear me out on this, I can easily say 30 years is when, we started learning all these things. And today when I sit here and talk to you, I have over the years evolved a woman's perspective, evolved a teacher's perspective, evolved a woman who is managing home and work and sitting on this chair and being able to take decisions also. Empowerment would mean that am I able to? Am I heard? Okay, number four, being able to influence social choices and decisions affecting the whole society. Yeah. Number five, being organized and respected as equal citizens and human beings with a positive contribution. So for me, these five characteristics very neatly, very nicely sum up the empowerment that is there. I would also quickly mention Hashmi and Schuller's six interrelated dimensions, which they've mentioned in their work. And they're also, I feel, for all of us, very important. If some of you are working on empowerment in any other area also, these variables would help you to look into the whole case of empowerment of any gender that you're looking at. One, sense of self. Okay, sense of self and vision of the future. How do you see yourself in the future? Number two, decision making power in the household. Do you have to always look up to someone, ask somebody's permission, a lot of other things. So decision making power in the household as well. Although we have this assumption that women and household go together, but remember, the power, the decision making power within the household also does not lie with the women. Number three, mobility and visibility. See how important they are. Half the time, our friends are not able to attend offline conferences, are not able to move and go to another place. But they come for the job out of their homes, but they're not able to then move around. So one of the constraints is, oh, I have to see. For example, if you ask me to move around February and March coming year, I won't be able to. My younger daughter writes class 12 exams. So whether you like it or not, but it's a responsibility that a woman shoulders, a mother shoulders. So mobility, visibility, very, very important. Visibility. You work, but then are you given visibility? So many a times, maybe you're working in the background, but you don't get. So that also is one of the dimensions of empowerment. Next, number four, very important, economic security. That's also. And see, all this, link it with the local governing institutions. Women are getting and finding this. See, visibility. If you think of a couple of panchayats in Maharashtra, you will find that there were, even within these election campaigns which I was following, there were women faces, and people were identifying with them. Participation in non-family groups. I mean, family groups, women participate, but then non-family groups, you're able to only through the empowerment. And how? The empowerment that you get through these institutions, then interact effectively in the public sphere. And that is what I said in one of the challenges when I was listing them: private public dichotomy, wherein women are assumed to be speaking more in the private sphere, less in the public sphere. So these variables and characters of empowerment, just finishing empowerment with the three overlapping dimensions. All these can be put into three dimensions: one, personal empowerment; two, relational empowerment; and three, collective empowerment. Okay, so this was quickly that I wanted to tell you about these concepts which come in when you are talking about when women in these local governing institutions, whether they are rural, whether they are urban, etc. Now, coming to the constraint, and also I would want to just quickly share with you. Let me just highlight the constraints and then quickly share with you my experience of Block Udhampur. Udhampur is a district within Jammu division of Jammu and Kashmir, and Block Udhampur has a lot of panchayats. And out of that, I did a small research and looked at how women were, participating. And remember, I was looking at a time when reservation had just come in, and we did not have reservation at the level of sarpanches. So any moment sarpanch that you found had, contested and won the seat of sarpanch without reservation. So that, I think, was much more commendable than winning a seat which was a reserved seat for a woman. Okay, let me quickly look at the constraints. Oh, bhai. Yeah, I'm lost in my, yeah. Okay, so very importantly, we need to understand that, as I said, patriarchy remains to be the most crucial element that brings in lot of constraints. And when we say patriarchy, this also reminds us that it is in a sense a system, our society, which has male domination. It shapes women's relationship in politics, transforms male and females into men and women, constructs the hierarchy of gender relations, where, of course, men are privileged. Like, for example, if I'm saying Bisakha Datta, how did she title her book? Who will make the chapatis? I hope some of you who've read this book would know this, that Bisakha Datta said that I met a Sarpanch Pati, the SP, and told him that, do you know that from tomorrow your wife is going to sit in the panchayat ghar and, look after all the work related to panchayat. So the prompt response that came from the Sarpanch Pati was, chapati kaun banayega? If she goes and sits in panchayat ghar, who will make the chapatis? So that line really struck her, and she said, this is, the first worry that a male has, that who will make, not any other thing. So in that sense, the gender role ideology, this gender role ideology, it is used as an ideological tool by patriarchy to place women within the private arena of home as mothers and wives, and men in the public sphere. And one of the vital factors that shape the level of women's political participation globally. So it's not, education curriculum includes politics or not, whether you are, it's the socialization. It's that whole feeling of, you remain in parda, you remain in zanana, you remain inside, you are sitting in the rasoi ghar, etc., etc. So I think all adds on to the ideological divide which is there, and it is not reflective of the reality, because now for us the reality is that we are giving opportunities and we are providing all kinds of equality, resources, accesses, etc. Even to that extent, equality of outcome is what we are looking at, and we are still, ideological divide remains the same. We go back home and we still say, "Acha, chai lana, pani pilana, khana ho gaya kya?" Nobody has a right to ask me if at the end of this lecture, when I reach back home, कि अच्छा तुम आ गई हो, अब अपने हाथ की अच्छी चाय पिलाओ. Nobody has a right to say that to me. And but then that happens. That happens. I mean, I think these are these are manipulative, strategic ways of asking women to just uh, restrict, or asking them to just stick to whatever has been decided since ages for them. So the boundaries between public and private, this is another constraint that we have. They are often blurred in the daily lives of women. Domestic domain continues to be perceived. If you go north or south or whichever part of India, you will still find cultural differences, but this public-private divide and the blurring of lines, etc., for women still remains the same. Women have to negotiate their entry into and claim on public space according to the discursive and material opportunities available in a given culture and society. So this public-private dichotomy in traditional definitions of politics is used to exclude women from public political sphere. Even when women are brought into politics, they are entered as, how, mothers, wives, so and so. You do a quick survey of your election, which has just finished in Maharashtra. You will find most of these men. You have examples. You have so many examples. You can actually name them. That who are these women who are part of the political sphere. Then the third very important challenge that women face is of, as I had enlisted it, proxy women. Proxy women, or we call it token women, or we also call them namesake or symbolic women. So proxy women, because they could be placed in the as stand-ins, whichever local council or local panchayat. So they are used as stand-ins or replacements of their husbands or their fathers, who might even participate in the meetings in their place. And let me share my experience with you. When I was going to different houses of these elected women, one of the panchayat member, the woman I was talking to, while I was talking to her, she started talking. She was alone and I was sitting with her. She starts talking to me, narrates two things, and immediately the son walks in, the husband walks in, and she goes quiet. And I'm only looking at her and trying to communicate. The husband and son, they start telling me, "Madam, हमसे पूछिए, उनको रहने दीजिए, हमसे पूछिए." So I said, "No, I'm here to talk to her." I said, "No, no." They said, "No, no, she doesn't know anything. We know everything." So even in a more personal kind of a space where I felt that woman might have more space to talk to me, she still was denied the space. So they attend, they participate in the meetings in their place. So um, token women. So there are token women. They say, "Ha, aurtein hain." You nominate them, you bring in or whatever. And research on quota women has revealed many cases of purely symbolic representation of women, especially if the women elected have no power base in a constituency of their own, or in the parties, or in strong movements outside the political institution. Where there is no base, so kahan se aa gaye? For example, ask me. So if I have to get into, I might have some kind of political background, wo chhod do. But then what I'm saying is, a teacher sitting here doing all kind of research and other discipline, etc. If she is asked, it has to be like, why is she being? So people will start, and one would find that there are other reasons than my sheer having a base, which is actually my right then to be politically active. So although all these things are happening, but there are many success stories also of women who feel, um, sometimes they felt very isolated, totally isolated, powerless in the beginning. And then they've had this large, long journey where eventually they have gained confidence and influence. And you will find there are women who started off as very weak candidates, but they were elected for one reason or the other. And then later, when they recontested, they were elected with a lot of, josh and enthusiasm. So the whole idea of presence of namesake or token women definitely becomes a challenge for women. But because I'm also talking, when I am talking of all this, keeping in mind Jammu and Kashmir, or especially Jammu region, because I've not researched in Kashmir, Jammu region local governance politics. So now local governance in Jammu is providing an opportunity to women to participate in political processes at the grassroots level. Why? Because every political party has a women's wing now, okay, to encourage women to join politics either at national or local level. Women participation in politics has no doubt increased tremendously. And because there's only one municipal election that has happened with the reservation, post the reservation, and a large number of women in Jammu had contested in Jammu municipal, and they were elected in Jammu municipal bodies. So they have sensed a positive change in their attitude. They have become more confident and independent. And this I'm speaking firsthand. This I'm speaking out of the experience that we've had interacting with the women in the municipal bodies. They have vested interests in those areas which are the responsibilities of local governments. So you'll find there is change in street lighting. So imagine, there is one of the works where they have said, one of the studies showed that when you ask men what are the important things, they talk of something else. They will not talk of street lighting, or they will not talk about shauchalayas, or they will not talk about water points. They talk about other things. But when women were doing, and I'm talking of this from the Jammu point of view, they worked on parks. They have worked because they felt there has to be a common public space where women can also go out, children go out, women go out, they sit, they talk, etc. Lanes, drains, sewerage, etc. So active role in handling local problems. And this was possible only because 74th Amendment had given us this whole compulsive number of women to be part of local governing this thing, bodies. Also, when I talk about in the terms of more challenges, there is definitely, and I think all of you will agree, marginality of women in politics. Despite all this, you will still find women are at the margins. So poor participation of women is there. I'm saying Jammu saw, but again, not to that extent that uh, you know, uh, anybody would expect the election to be like, where active women are participating. For example, now I have started seeing this change. I'm sure around you, if you see, you will find this slow transformation that is happening, that girls and women are participating, are talking, and of course they are coming out and voting. That is there, but then contesting, it's still low, it's still poor. Okay. And because there are less women, there is poor participation of women in political decision making. So this becomes one of the root causes for the situation where majority of women still lag behind men in power, wealth, and opportunity. And that is why, everybody and all of us, including me, we have been talking in terms of reservation, and we have been talking in terms of, quotas. Before I move further, a quick 2, 3 my observations from my study in Udhampur. There were many myths that were exploded when we did this study, and one of the myths, the first myth which was exploded in my study, was about where will we find so many women to contest. 2011 is when this municipality election happened, and the first worry that everybody was having was, ये औरतें आएंगी कहाँ से? Where are the women to contest? So why are we, going in for this reservation? So after the inclusion of, women, after the reservation at the panchayat level, women had contested and were elected in the reserved seats. And even some were, as I just shared, were elected even on the unreserved seats. And Udhampur district has the distinction of electing women panchayat members and women sarpanch even without reservation. So not all districts have this. Udhampur and I think another district, Samba, had this distinction. When one looks at the profile of women in panchayats of Block, Udhampur shows a wider representation across different religions. This was another thing, one could not say this is majority, this religion, area, so it would be from this particular community only, but it was from across communities and social groups. That's again important. And I think the representation of all social groups was also because of the 73rd amendment at the urban level 74. Of course, this included Sikhs, Muslims, and Hindu women on one hand, and many of them were scheduled castes and scheduled tribes like Gujars on the other hand. So many of these supplemented the family work of agriculture. So they were not the women who were just involved in the household work. They were already helping in the I would say the extended household work, which is the agriculture, which generally happens in all rural areas across India. And some of them were housewives also. These members included both literate and illiterate, but most of them had only done schooling. So they were not highly educated and all that. So they were just so many of our most of the women in the sample were first time entrants. So they were not the women who were like over and over again participating. So like they were very new to the political arena. So they were first time entrants to power. They stated clearly that they could not have contested if the positions were not reserved. And there were some women who reported that either their natal family or one of the members of their affinal family was already in politics. So there were not many women. There were just 2, 3 women who were like from these fresh families which did not have any political connection, but most of them had a political background. So I would say instrument of reservation was, of course, successful in this particular case, as across caste and class, women had participated, and predominantly those who were not well off. So here the whole component of class also comes in, that they were not well off or well connected in local governance. They had also contested and participated. And most important thing, they were not just namesake members, but their participation levels were very, very significant. Okay. Um, so how do we go beyond all these problems? Does the reservation actually help? Do the quotas actually help? And here I would want to quote again this whole quota thing which is given by Delrup. And 1 minute. Delrup talks in terms of, he's also given us categories of quotas. That's something that I find very interesting, and I want to share it with you all. 1 minute. Delrup argues that quotas aim at increasing women's representation in publicly elected or appointed institutions, such as what we are talking, local councils, governance. And he says gender quotas draw legitimacy from the discourse of exclusion, according to which the main reasons for women's underrepresentation are the exclusionary practices of the political parties and the political institutions at large. And this argument is based on the experience that equality as a goal cannot be reached by formal treatment as a means. So if barriers exist, it is argued that compensatory measures must be introduced as a means to reach equality of result. So he has conceptualized, as I said, the quotas into 3 categories. And he says there should be candidate quotas, number 1. Number 2, he says reserved seats. And number 3, gender neutral quota. So 3 things he's talking about. So he's not simply saying, okay, there should be reservation. He's actually kind of explaining. And I think this really very well suits. Of course, we all can have our own opinions about it. But when he says candidate quotas, he's meaning specifying the minimum percentage of candidates for election that must be women, and apply to political parties list of candidates for election. So aisa nahi ho sakta, some party says, oh, we didn't find women, or it's okay, we only have 2 women, etc. There has to be a minimum percentage of women candidates. Number 2, reserved seats. What he means is reserved seats which are set aside. It's like set aside certain number of seats for women among representatives in a legislature, which is what we have, 33%, etc., specified either in a constitution or a legislation, which India follows. And number 3, which is gender neutral quotas. And in this case, the requirement may be, for example, that neither gender should occupy more than 60% or less than 40% of the positions on a party list or in a decision-making body. So instead of saying kitna hoga, itne se zyada nahi ho sakta, also is a way of, seeing that everybody else also gets a chance if we put an upper limit to something. So while quotas for women set a maximum for men's representation, gender neutral quotas construct a maximum limit for both sexes. So I think this is something which is very, very important. How quotas can help? And for that, I'm using, and this I think some of you must have read, Nirmala Butch's work on, panchayats, especially because she's worked on rural. So I'm using her work and want to share it with you because I find it very interesting wherein she says, effectiveness of quotas. She says, okay, fine, reservation, quota, etc., but how effective are they, or how we can make them effective, or what is the need of bringing in reservation of quotas? So uh, we need quotas, of course, for quantitative or qualitative change in women's representation, but also that the problem of women's representation cannot be dealt with by reservation of seats alone unless initiatives are taken for preparing women. And remember, the initially in the beginning only I had brought in that point of training women. So it is that she's trying to emphasize, that initiatives are taken for preparing women to make effective use of the opportunity spaces created by these reservations. And also, uh, there are certain countries like Sweden, others where these training programs, these preparation kind of, capsules, they are carried out because they want prepared women to enter, because we need competent people to govern us. So it's important that we also prepare competent people. So using quotas as an instrument in segments and institutions where they need a breakthrough. All these countries are using it. Okay. Now, women's struggle is not over when they enter. So even if there are quotas in reservation, when they enter the political bodies, because they enter a male domain here. And I did say this, that, although they derive this satisfaction and derive strength, that we've entered a domain which is male dominated. But of course, that is not the end. That is the beginning of the problem. Okay. And these bodies are the products of male dominated or exclusively male political processes, like most of the institutions of governance, and hence their institutional masculinity. You know? Like we all face, even within our educational institutions, we face institutional masculinity. So institutional masculinity continues to be their invisible characteristic. This has to be seen along with the institutional masculinity of the political party structures. You know that all the people who decide, who are the leaders of a particular political, they're mostly men, and then there would be one woman. Again, a token woman. So there is institutional masculinity of the political party structures, even if they are headed by a woman. I don't want to name any political party here, but we all understand there are parties which, for the namesake, have women as their leaders, but what percolates in their parties is masculinities. So quotas in institutions of governance ultimately expect to give women more power. हमने empowerment की बात की. तो power देने के लिए quotas. Any policy instrument to enhance women's representation through reservation of seats is most controversial, where the entry of new or more women means displacing men. हमारी जगह these women are coming, okay, who are already established in the institutions. So men would feel very offended. Oh, acha, okay, so this constituency is now a woman reserved constituency. So where do I go? So for them, it's like getting the feeling of being displaced. So part of the resistance comes from the fear of current incumbents losing their seats, as I just said. So very, very important that we understand that quotas and reservations are required, but how are they seen? What would what would be their role? For example, it's not just a question of getting certain number in, as I just said. Okay, 33% women hain. It is also developing their capacities to play their rightful roles in development process. And this would make an important difference in the local government governing institutions, which actually they decide the quality of life for citizens. For example, municipalities are bodies that actually look after the cleanliness, hygiene of that particular town or area. And all of us in one way or the other are struggling with the, let's say the waste management, the, clean lanes and streets, the clogged sewerages, etc. So this basically then would have a consequence on the health of the citizens of the society. Everything is linked. So unless and until we have these conscious, absolutely well prepared people entering these bodies, no. So we do need responsible these maybe it's municipal or panchayat members, because their responsibilities relate both to practical needs and the strategic needs. So practical and strategic needs would come only through the preparedness and the training. So quotas are definitely seen as way of empowerment and introducing or giving women the opportunity to make their voices heard. But also quotas in institutions of governance expect to give women more power. So where they are expected that women would work, women are also given the required representation. There is also an expectation from the women's end that what would they be delivering. It has definitely increased total number of women in political process, but the genuine representation in the decision making process, I think, still is a slow transformative process. So it would take a longer time, but I would say if I have to conclude the way forward, I would say I feel that it's not dim, it's not dark, it's not bleak. I definitely am very, very hopeful, and with the 33 reservation which has come in for now parliament and assemblies, I am very hopeful that with a larger number and thinking rational minds, a woman's perspective coming in the decision making would definitely make things much, much better for our coming generations and our younger girls and boys who would equally work. And of course, I include all other genders who identify themselves as whoever. They would also be part of the governing group of people, and bring in the much required transformation and development that is needed in the society. Thank you so much. I can take questions.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Let's have a big hand, please. विश्वरक्षा मैडम के लिए सब जोर से तालियां हो जाए. Yes. So thank you very much. Very, very wonderful. And uh, of course, maybe you have covered all the dimensions of this in terms of rural, urban, and so on. And it's been always great pleasure to listen to you because you have done quite a lot of research and you are talking from the perspective of the people's perspective, women's perspective, and the lens, not only the cross-cutting so far, but the specific those institutions that are really creating the spaces as a good human being, and of course to take the lot of responsibilities, and a lot of burden also has increased in some parts. And I remember that the reference you have cited, then, and who will make chapatis, Bishaka Datta's The Kali for Women. So now the floor is open for discussion, and we can have some couple of questions and maybe some good feedback, and then we can go ahead with this. Vinitaji, would you like to please begin with this, and then we can take some questions from the participants? Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
And Ashutosh sir, please come in also. Okay, after the Vinita's deliberation. Yeah. Yeah.
Ma'am, your lecture is very insightful lecture, which has illuminated a critical aspect of women's empowerment and governance. And you also highlighted how the 73rd or 74 constitutional amendment have created a significant opportunities for the women through reservation in the rural and urban government, even fostering confidence and awareness among them. And also you emphasize while progress has been made, challenges like patriarchy, token representation, stereotype, marginality, and full participation in uh, women's in government. So, ma'am, you also elaborated on the concept of empowerment, explaining that it is not about the education or appearance, but about having decision-making power. And you outlined the characteristic dimensions of empowerment, including self-awareness, effective public engagement, emphasizing the need for personal relation and collective empowerment. You, ma'am, also shared a personal experience of interacting with the women in Udhampur, Jammu, highlighting the constant what they faced, the undervaluation of their contribution, and their inspiring effort to take on active impactness. So, this lecture is, I think, on behalf of everyone, we extend to heartfelt thanks and very enlightening. Even I'm so enlightened by your lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
And
Yeah,
now the
any
question
questions? Anybody would like to have any questions? Please feel free.
Or any comments for that matter.
Any comments also, not necessary questions has to be there. Okay, some comments and feedback also. And Ashutosh ji, are you there? Please, if you want to come in, please. Or any scholars would like to share their views. Yeah. So I think it's perfectly fine and they don't have any questions.
I actually,
Mishra,
I did cut short. Yeah, Preeti Mishra.
No,
नमस्ते
ma'am.
मैम नमस्ते मैम मैं प्रीति मिश्रा हूँ और इस सेशन की वजह से मेरे अंदर एक बोलते हैं ना कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल बिल्डअप हुआ है और मैं
बहुत
पॉलिटिक्स
बढ़िया।
फ्यूचर में जरूर ज्वाइन करना चाहूंगी
बिल्कुल करिए करिए
बिल्कुल
बढ़िया।
मैम बिल्कुल हाँ,
मैंने इसलिए
क्योंकि
शुरू
मैम
में कहा भी था, मैंने
जी
शुरू में
मैम
कहा था कि मैंने भी छोटी मोटी इलेक्शन जीती है, इसलिए
जी
वो थोड़ा इंस्पिरेशन के लिए कहा था कि मैंने नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडियन सोशियोलॉजिकल एसोसिएशन का इलेक्शन जीता। वो उसके कहने का तात्पर्य भी यही था। और प्लीज
Yeah.
रिमेम्बर, आई एम द फर्स्ट वुमन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ दैट एसोसिएशन। आज तक वहां कोई फ्री प्रेसिडेंट नहीं थी। तो
हैट्स ऑफ है मैम हैट्स ऑफ है आपको
और कंटेस्ट करके जीता है। आज तक हमेशा जो है वो क्या होता था, वो सहमति से हो जाते थे। तो इस बार
जी
जो
जी
है, जब मैंने कहा कि मुझे सहमति से बना दिया जाए, तो पुरुषों ने कहा नहीं, आप स्त्री हैं, आप नहीं बन सकती, आपके साथ हम
क्योंकि
कंटेस्ट करेंगे।
मैं बलिया जिले के छोटे से गांव से हूँ और यहाँ हमारे
अच्छा।
प्रधानपति ही चलाते हैं गांव को
ओके, हाँ तो सही बात
तो
है ना, ये तो है, ये
जी
सब सब सच है। और इनफैक्ट हर कोई जिसने भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स किया है, लिखा है, उन्होंने अपने एक्सपीरियंस से ही लिखा है ना।
बिल्कुल
चाहे
मैम बिल्कुल
महाराष्ट्र की बात है या बिहार की है, झारखंड की है, मध्य प्रदेश, राजस्थान, केरल, सब जगह के पंचायतों का, और इवन जम्मू कश्मीर का। मेरे अपने स्टूडेंट्स ने जम्मू पर दोनों ही अर्बन और रूरल दोनों पे काम किया है। तो उसमें जो स्त्रियों का योगदान और भागीदारी है, उसमें बहुत अच्छी रिसर्च की है। तो इसलिए मुझे लगता है कि
जी
जब हमने फर्स्ट हैंड ये सब खुद देखा, एक्सपीरियंस किया है, तो उसे बांटना, शेयर करना, बोलना, लिखना बहुत जरूरी है ना। इसी से तो एक
बिल्कुल
से
मैम
एक
बिल्कुल
पढ़ेगा सुनेगा तो बात बढ़ेगी, है ना।
जी
तो वी नीड मोर विमेन, वी नीड
मैंने खुद
पीपल लाइक
अभी
यू।
मैम रिसर्च किया है
जी
बिल्कुल क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना जो है हमारे यहाँ छोटे
जी
छोटे गांव में छोटी छोटी मतलब एक घर बनाना बहुत बड़ी चीज है यहाँ के औरतों के लिए
जी
गांव
जी
में
जी जी
एक घर होना है
बिल्कुल
बहुत बड़ी चीज है
बिल्कुल।
ठीक है मैम
एक
थैंक यू
चीज
मैम
मेरे दिमाग में आ रहा था मैडम, एक सवाल
जी
आ रहा था मेरे दिमाग में, क्योंकि आई हैव वर्कड एक्सटेंसिवली इन महाराष्ट्र विद women's governance and some policy advocacy in lobbying with the legislatures and things like that. And we were trying to get some kind of maybe the support in order to have a capacity building and training of the elected representatives, okay, through the SIRD. So that maybe once we have support and training and then some kind of financial assistance also to the elected representatives, okay, so that really works, especially the Dalit sarpanchas or maybe the coming from the scheduled tribes and scheduled caste background. And especially how do we maybe have a support in terms of maybe not to have a no confidence motion in the initial years. Okay, unless and until they learn something, okay. Otherwise, immediately within 6 months, okay, there was a cases filed like no confidence motion. तो तुरंत मतलब बाहर निकलना पड़ता था दलित सरपंच के लिए। और खास करके वायलेंस भी बहुत ज्यादा देखा हमने, खास करके अपर कास्ट लोगों से दलित सरपंच, और तो खास करके माइनॉरिटीज पे भी और बाकी लोगों
अच्छा।
के भी ऊपर बहुत बड़े पैमाने पे वायलेंस देखा। तो इसलिए फिर सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस की ओर के उनको क्या सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं, हाउ डू वी प्रिवेंट दोज काइंड्स ऑफ वायलेंस in the village settings, because government or any kind of any law and order will take care later, okay, but the initial and immediate kind of maybe the support system has to be there at the local level, at the hamlet level and pada level and things like that. Therefore, the Mahila Rajasatta Andolan and Resource and Support Center for Development, Mumbai-based organizations, they have developed 1,000 villages in such a way so that maybe immediate support can be provided to the women. Like Sarpanch Pati, initially they were taking care of, but now they are taking care of their house. They are housemakers. Okay, like that kind of small changes, or making chai at home. Okay, and who will make chakati is now they are saying that you go and attend the meeting, but we will take care of, like these kinds of things. These are small changes are taking place, and there are hopes also, and they are supporting. Like हम बोलते हैं ना कि क्रांति ज्योति सावित्रीबाई फुले और ज्योतिबा फुले जी का हम बार बार ये पर्सपेक्टिव देते हैं। तो उसमें क्रांति ज्योति तो है, लेकिन क्रांति ज्योति सावित्रीबाई फुले के लिए ज्योतिराव भी जरूरी है घर घर में। दोनों का ये आप इक्वालिटी की बात कर रहे थे इसमें कि तो इंस्टीट्यूशनल इक्वालिटी मतलब एज ए फैमिली एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, or kinship as an institution, village level, self level kind of maybe, or the support also, because sometimes bureaucracy is very insensitive towards these kinds of issues. So how do we develop that maybe the sensitivity towards the women's participation in terms of decision making processes and building the substantive equality in existing systems also? I think there are a lot of challenges, but we should not lose our hopes. And I think, as you said, that optimism is the key of all these kinds of success, right? And empowering each others and sharing and caring environment to be developed, okay, in a village settings and so on. But do you think that there has to be some kind of maybe the policy level support, and we need to have some policy kind of level changes, or maybe review also in the existing programs in terms of the enhancing the participation? Not only the participation, but most of the times it is seen that the presence is treated as in participation, but I would say that active participation is needed, okay, in terms of decision making processes. Though there are a lot of challenges that may have to, okay, face initially, but later on I think the things are maybe have taken care, and it has been streamlined also in many settings as well. So what would you like to say on this, maybe from your side? Okay, please, madam.
Sampat, I think the first important thing, you already yourself saying that there has to be people's participation. You know, you're answering partly, you've answered it already. You know how things would move. You're saying policy changes, or any other at the level of the government. Again, you said government comes later. There has to be an urgent, immediate response. So that immediate response, I think, can come through only two things. One is networking. Very important. I mean, for any of us, for example, if Preeti Mishra tomorrow wants to contest an election, sabse zaruri hoga, you have to have a network. You need to have your own 5-10 people who would be there to support you. Now, when we say support, it doesn't just mean support, mentally or ideologically. We also need physical support, at times, because you're talking in terms of violence. So कोई आपको जवाब दे रहा है, कोई आपको सवाल पूछ रहा है, कोई आपसे रूड हो रहा है, कोई आपको आपकी जात और औकात बता रहा है, to put it in crude words. So we should be in a position that there are 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people with us who are always supporting us. So physical presence of your power needs to be there as well, as compared to your otherwise official power. And when I think then this actually shows us that how weak we are as a society, that even if we are in a power position, just because we belong to a certain community, we are still at risk and at threat, is something that we really need an introspection now, that where are we heading? Where is the way forward then? In case, even if we have given opportunities, and because of those opportunities, if somebody reaches through sheer hard work and commitment, someone reaches at a position, but still has a life threat or has a violence threat or some kind of it. So number one, networking, your support system. And number two, also at the policy program levels, the active helpline. And I am emphasizing and putting it in caps, the active helplines. I'm not talking about the passive, hamesha band rehne wali helpline. We all have helplines. We all have these numbers. This happens. Har jagah likhe rehte hain. But then are they working? So hamara emphasis is pe hona chahiye. Let's get all these, help numbers and all these helplines activated. So pehla, apna personal network, the resource, the people who support us, not just in our, ideas and ideologies and work, but also physically support us in hour of crisis, in all kinds of times. And two, we need to get these, helping support things from the government, from the state active. And that's how it will get implemented also. So a child line which acts, a woman helpline that helps, any kind of helpline that now these days a lot of transgenders are facing a lot of issues. So a helpline for them, a helpline for the aged people. So that's such a big thing. The aged population are facing itna problem these days. I think that can be, and we have different research committee talking about it, but it's such an important issue now to see. So although we have mechanisms in place, but we need to make them active. Mechanisms have to be 100101102. Recently, मेरी मौसी की death हो गई. She passed away. She fell and she became unconscious. My cousin is calling the ambulance. दिल्ली में बैठ के एम्बुलेंस मिला रहा है क्योंकि उसका नंबर जम्मू का है. तो वो जो एम्बुलेंस का 102 है वो जम्मू का रेस्पॉन्स आ रहा है. सो कहाँ मैकेनिज्म फेलियर है देखिए कि यू नीड अ इमीडिएट रेस्पॉन्स एंड हेल्प सिटिंग इन दिल्ली और नोएडा और यूपी wherever you're located, and this should be a national hotline कि आपका नंबर जहां लोकेटेड है वहां की सर्विस एक्टिव होके रेस्पॉन्स करे. तो वही नहीं हो रही है. उसको रेस्पॉन्स आ रहा है लेकिन वो जम्मू में लोकेटेड है. पुलिस हेल्पलाइन है, जम्मू की बोल रही है. भाई ये नंबर जम्मू का है डजंट मीन दैट उसको जम्मू का हेल्प चाहिए. वो लोकेटेड कहाँ है नंबर, ये अब एआई के जमाने में भी पॉसिबल नहीं हो रहा है, तो फिर कब होगा? तो ये कौन सी कॉन्वर्सेशन सुनने के लिए एआई का यूज हो रहा है अगर हमारे क्राइसिस सिचुएशन. So I think you've got my point. I'm also saying it in a lighter way, that in situations like this where you're pointing out that there is a lot of violence, there are a lot of backlashes that all these community people face who reach to certain level, that can be sorted only by also becoming a pressure group. So we need to have pressure groups who are not actively participating in politics or contesting elections, but are pressurizing the state to actually bring in the changes and the required mechanisms in place. The active, my emphasis is always on active mechanisms, be it physical, be it electronic, be it digital, or whichever way it's possible. Then only. And of course, sensitization, that you already answered, Sampat. The NGO or the governmental or the institutions like ours, that we go and sensitize people. We don't have to wait for a catastrophe. We don't have to wait for some kind of an incident. There doesn't need to be a Nirbhaya or something happening and then sensitization starts. It has to be done in all the normal possible days where we talk to people and we tell them, अगर ऐसा कभी हो जाए तो ऐसा कर सकते हैं. They already should have that knowledge. After the rain has come, uske baad there is no point of thinking in terms of how to save ourselves from getting wet. Right? So,
yeah. Very important points that you have highlighted. Yes, and I think we need to be very, very active in not only in party politics, but all these, the local governance and grassroots democracy. And ultimately, the dream of Gandhi is that Gram Swaraj, or maybe the power to the people. The last person should be able to exercise their power, in a larger context, or maybe for all, in terms of empowering the village society or the developmental, all kinds of issues and things like that. But yes, having said all these kinds of things, but there were some studies also, like E. Venkateshu's democratic decentralization in India, and particularly in South, the southern part of our country, and they were saying that how the budget has declined, because the budget is very important, and gender budgeting we were talking about, and gendered citizenship and things like that. So I think these are the factors that we need to improve, and for that matter, we need to have a lot of pressure group, as you suggested, like SHG movement, for example. They have been working. Absolutely, their contribution is immense, but still the long way to go ahead. With this, and then we need to have a lot of maybe multiple efforts also, and support. Because of the gender and gendered kind of maybe things, we are not emphasizing, because this is my personal view, that patriarchal issues, that the patriarchy is deeply rooted in our society.
We have a very successful program here in Jammu and Kashmir which is
Okay.
wherein self-help groups are very active, and now government has used them for running a program called Umeed, and that Umeed is part of the livelihoods program. So by using this Umeed, structure and the policy program, they have created livelihoods for people who are actually doing their local business. So you are locally growing something, making something. So government gives you that structure to sell those things. So you get an outlet, you also get networking for selling, the marketing and all that. So, and why I'm quoting Umeed is because I'm so happy. Every time I go to Jammu airport, I see their outlet where they are selling things which are saleable, for which they've created a market. So people carry souvenirs made by these women from self-help groups located in the rural areas. So see, one, they themselves are getting together, in self-help group ka pura concept is nicely being used, and also they are taken on board by the government. So support government ka hai, to then there is more chance of it becoming successful.
More recognition to their products and things.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and value additions. Yes, yeah. So, is there anyone who would like to come in, because we have 2-3 minutes? Otherwise, we can wrap up.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Deepak.
जी
Please, Deepak
जी
ji.
सर
Yeah, Deepak ji. Yeah.
जी जी जी
And then
जी सर
Rupashi. Yeah.
सर और मैडम, आप दोनों लोग को नमस्कार सर।
नमस्ते
नमस्ते
नमस्ते।
मैम। दरअसल सर थोड़ा सा मैं लेट जुड़ पाया और मैम को मैं सुन नहीं पाया, इसलिए मेरे कॉलेज में एक मैडम है, उनके बेटे का डेथ हो गई थी, उसके क्रिमेशन में
अच्छा।
चले गए थे, तो आई एम सॉरी कि मैं जुड़ नहीं पाया। तो सर मैं यहाँ पे केजीके डिग्री कॉलेज में असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर हूँ समाजशास्त्र का।
जी
जी, तो मैम मैं सुन नहीं पाया, लेकिन आपकी जो बात कन्वर्जेशन हुई अभी संपत काले सर से और जो आपने बताया, उससे एक चीज मेरी बस ऐसे ही एक क्वेश्चन है कि किसी भी लोकल बॉडी जो इलेक्शन होते हैं, जैसे गांव के
जी
कोई भी जिला पंचायत वगैरह, तो उसमें हमारी जो पॉपुलेशन है लगभग 50% है महिलाओं की और 50% पुरुषों की। लगभग हमारे यहाँ का जो सेंसस है 2011 का, और वो लगभग हर जगह यही लोकेटेड है। तो क्यों हम सिर्फ ब्लेम में आ जाते हैं कि पैट्रियार्कल सोसाइटी ठीक है, वो थोड़ी बहुत प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करती है, सर गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज है और उनका पॉपुलेशन भी है। तो क्यों ये, जैसे हम लोग कहते हैं ना कि महिलाएं आगे नहीं आ पा रही हैं, अपने काम नहीं कर पा रही, पैट्रियार्कल सोसाइटी है और उनको एब्यूजिंग की जाती है चीजों को, वो ढंग से किसी, जैसे अभी मैडम आई थी प्रीति मिश्रा मैडम, तो उन्होंने कहा प्रधानपति का कॉन्सेप्ट है, ठीक है। तो महिलाएं मैडम क्यों आगे नहीं आ पाती, कि उसका रीजन मेरे समझ में नहीं आया, जबकि पॉपुलेशन उनकी लगभग बराबर है और पॉलिसीज उनको हमेशा इनकरेज कर रही है, पिछले जब से हमारी गवर्नमेंट है या जब से ये फेमिनिज्म जो मूवमेंट है तब से। तो मैडम थोड़ा सा ये मुझे आप समझाएं।
संपत, हम रूपाशी का क्वेश्चन भी ले लेते हैं।
जी
रूपाशी,
जी।
अनम्यूट एंड
Yeah, Rupachi. Yeah.
हेलो रूपाशी।
Good afternoon, ma'am. First of all, I'm very grateful and privileged to be your student and also being a part of this seminar, a lady with abundance, knowledge and experience. So, ma'am, right now I'm pursuing my PhD. I'm a research scholar from Punjab, LPU. Also working in the sort of same topic, which is participation in Panchayat and proxy sarpanch. I was doing a field work. I was also interviewing some women sarpanches. Ma'am, जब मैं उनसे बात कर रही थी, तो I also figured out that there is a lack of consciousness among them. Really, they are of the point of view that their husbands are just helping and supporting them.
अच्छा।
उनको ये नहीं पता चल रहा था कि ये this is actually a case of a proxy sarpanch. They are being replaced from the roles and duties that they have to play. One of the sarpanch there in Jammu itself, she told me कि मैम रात को जब हमारा काम है सरपंच का, और हमें रात को 12-1 बजे भी वी गेट कॉल कि रात को ना पंगा हो गया, कुछ लड़ाई हो गया, तो आपको लगता है क्या कि मैं रात को 1 बजे जाके कर सकती हूँ? तो वो तो मेरे हस्बैंड ही जाएंगे। So this is, I think there's a lack of training, there's a lack of knowledge that she doesn't have. There are many situations that she could have dealt with the situation. So, ma'am, my question to you is, what are the parameters, what are the criterias to differentiate between this? There's a very little difference between a husband who is helping and supporting, the wife, and a case of a proxy sarpanch. So,
Okay.
kindly
Yeah.
on it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else? किसी को सुन के कुछ लगा हो पूछना? Anyways, Sampat, I'll quickly respond to Deepak and then to Rupashi.
Yeah.
दीपक जी, वो आपने खुद ही जवाब दे दिया है कि आपने लेक्चर बहुत मिस कर लिया है, तो अदरवाइज आपको सब जवाब मिल जाते हैं. आई मीन वी डिड टॉक अबाउट पॉपुलेशन. तो एक बात वो तो मान के हम चलते हैं कि पॉपुलेशन है, औरतों की बहुत पॉपुलेशन है. मैंने तो यहाँ तक कहा कि बहुत सारे रिसोर्सेज हैं, अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं ये. बट व्हेन वी से पेट्रियार्की, दैट डज नॉट मीन इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ मेन. पेट्रियार्की इज नॉट मेन एंड वुमेन. पेट्रियार्की इज अ स्ट्रक्चर, इट्स अ सिस्टम. तो उसमें औरतें भी उतनी ही हिस्सेदारी करती हैं जितना कि पुरुष करते हैं, और ये एक मानसिकता है. सो इसमें मैं इंस्टीट्यूशनल मैस्कुलिनिटी की बात कर रही थी कि हमारा जो सोचने का ढंग है वो भी मैस्कुलिन है. मतलब हमें लगता है हम पेट्रियार्कल हैं कि हमें ये ध्यान नहीं रहता कि ये एक दफ्तर है जहां पहले कभी स्त्रियां नहीं आई और अब स्त्रियां आ रही हैं, तो यहाँ एक वुमन टॉयलेट होना चाहिए. ये कैसी मानसिकता है कि वुमन टॉयलेट नहीं है एंड वी डोंट गिव इट अ थॉट. हम ये सोचते ही नहीं है कि यहाँ तो केवल जेंट्स होते हैं, ये एक पुलिस थाना है और इसमें एक जेंट्स टॉयलेट है, और अगर औरत आ जाती है तो बोले उधर आप भी इधर ही चले जाइए बिकॉज यहाँ और तो कोई जगह है नहीं. आप समझ रहे हैं? आई एम गिविंग यू अ स्मॉल लिटिल एग्जांपल ऑफ अ सिचुएशन, अ डोमेन वेयर देयर आर नो वुमेन. फॉर एग्जांपल डिफेंस फोर्सेस, जहां बहुत कम औरतें पोस्ट होती थी, अब बहुत सारी आना शुरू हुई है, फिर भी फील्ड में बहुत कम है. फ्लाइंग बहुत कम करती हैं, अब नंबर बढ़ना शुरू हुआ. लेकिन जब वो इनिशियली शुरू हुई तो उनकी शुरू की परेशानियों में एक ये भी था कि उनके लिए चेंजिंग रूम नहीं है. उनको रिपोर्ट करके फ्लाइंग गियर पहनना है और उनके पास चेंजिंग रूम नहीं है. ये एक सच्चाई है, फिल्म की बात नहीं है. इफ यू सीन दैट फिल्म, उसमें भी ये बात लाई गई है. ये मानसिकता जो है, दिस इज पेट्रियार्कल. पेट्रियार्की का मतलब वायलेंस या मारकाट या तोड़फोड़ नहीं है. पेट्रियार्की का मतलब एक मानसिकता है, एक स्ट्रक्चर है. तो कहने का मतलब ये कि औरतों के पास अपॉर्चुनिटीज तो हैं, जैसा मैंने अभी बात करते हुए कहा, उनके पास प्रिपेयर्डनेस, ट्रेनिंग और सोशलाइजेशन नहीं. हम उनको डे वन से ये नहीं सिखाते हैं कि आपने लीडर बनना है. हम उनको ये नहीं सिखाते हैं कि भाई तुम चुनाव लड़ने वाली हो. मैं चाहता हूं या चाहती हूं अपने बच्चे को ये बोलें कि तुम कल को नेता बनो. वेरी रेयर. पॉलिटिकल फैमिलीज में फिर भी शायद सुना जाएगा, लेकिन अदरवाइज अदर देन दैट कहीं और इस बात को ऐसा आप समझे ट्रेनिंग के तरह से नहीं सिखाया जाता है. सो दैट इज अनदर थिंग women डू नॉट कम इन. एंड थर्ड, ऑफ कोर्स, हमारा जितना स्ट्रक्चर है, चाहे वो हाउस होल्ड स्ट्रक्चर है, चाहे हमारी वो लाइफ पैटर्न्स हैं, स्टेजेस ऑफ लाइफ हैं, और मैंने शुरू में भी कहा जो हमारी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैं, जो माना जाता है, मतलब जो एक आइडियोलॉजिकल डिवाइड है पब्लिक प्राइवेट की, वो एग्जिस्ट करती ही है. और मैं ये नहीं कह रही हूँ कि केवल पुरुष कह रहे हैं महिलाओं को कि तुम ये काम करो. महिलाएं खुद कहती हैं कि हम ये नहीं कर सकते, हमारा फर्ज तो ये है, पहले तो ये देखना है बाद में. सो they become agencies and agents of patriarchal system and structure. इसमें कसूर की बात नहीं है. It's not a question of blame game. It is question of understanding the system and then trying to find the solution. I hope I am able to answer. Deepak, I'm coming to Rupashi's
यस मैम, यस
question.
मैम, आपने उसका आंसर बहुत अच्छा रहा. बट मैम, ये क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में ऐसे आया कि जिस कॉलेज में मैं हूँ वहाँ पे जो वुमेन प्रोफेसर्स हैं, जो लगभग अब
जी
रिटायरमेंट के कगार पे हैं और इस समय प्रोफेसर्स हैं, वो
जी
उनकी भी जो मानसिकता है वही है जो गांव में एक वैसी भी औरतों की होती है, कि उनकी डिमांड्स वही है. तो हमको लगता है कि इनको जो अपनी महिलाएं हैं उनको एक दिशा देनी चाहिए, एक थोड़ा सा जैसे आगे आके एज ए लीडरशिप का काम करना चाहिए. लेकिन वो भी वही है कि मेरा काम ये नहीं.
जी जी.
तो और
That
क्या
is what I
उसमें
said.
दिक्कत
That is
आती
what I
है,
said.
जो
Yeah.
जो लड़कियां आगे आना चाहती हैं उनको भी वो कहीं ना कहीं, जैसे हमारी तरफ कहा जाता है, पैर पकड़ के खींच लेती हैं कि नहीं, तुमको ये नहीं करना है, तुमको ये काम करना है.
करेक्ट करेक्ट,
तो
सही
जब
कह रहे हैं. यही
एक
मैंने भी
ग्रुप को
कहा आपको
समस्या है,
कि
जी मैम,
जी.
जी मैम, तो इसीलिए
उनका
ये
भी कसूर है.
लगातार दिमाग में बात आती है.
Yes, yes, yes.
ठीक है, थैंक यू
Okay,
मैम,
so
थैंक
Rupashi quickly,
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak ji.
um,
Thank you, Deepak ji. Thank you.
helping
Yeah,
and
yeah.
support
Next.
is
थैंक यू
Oh,
सर,
yeah.
थैंक
helping
यू।
and support
Thank
Rupashi
you. Yeah.
is when they need to understand that when they are just helping and supporting them to perform their duties, and they should not start performing the duties in their place. Simple. So if somebody drops me at my office and picks me up, is a help. But someone who then tells me, okay, select this girl. Looks like she will be good. No, you should not depute that person. Not good. Please ask that person or transfer that person or something that person, because वो हमारी कम्युनिटी से है, हमको अच्छा लगता है, या हमको ये फायदा होगा, या बाद में इससे ये होगा. Start taking and participating in decision making, then it's interfering. For example, if I have to look at my partner, he has nothing to do with what I'm doing in the office. No discussions on that. But yes, discussion on कितने बजे निकल रही हो, कितने बजे आ रही हो, कितने बजे जाना है, should not be seen as interference, should be seen as support and help. So this now you can translate in the context that you are asking. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you
Anybody
so
else?
much. Thank you so much. It was very, very
Okay.
enlightening. Yes, yes, and eye-opening also some of these examples, and because most of the times we don't think from various perspectives, because that perspective is really important, and understanding,
Exactly.
okay, what is what exactly, and how do we define it, okay, in different context.
Yeah.
Context is also really important. Yeah. So I think it has triggered a very good discussion, and I think we can have some more points in some other time also, right? And in person also when we meet, okay, in conference,
We are
definitely.
meeting at Munjal University.
Definitely. Yes, Munjal University. So now विनीता जी प्लीज नाउ मेरी ओर से तो सबसे पहले धन्यवाद विश्व रक्षा जी, और क्योंकि मैं आपसे सीखते आया हूँ, चाहे वो संवाद ग्रुप हो, चाहे वो सोशियोलॉजी हो, और चाहे फिर वो अलग अलग कॉन्फ्रेंस क्यों ना हो, बहुत बहुत मतलब ये मोटिवेटिंग होता है हमेशा के लिए। और हमारे शिवाजी उकरांडे महाराष्ट्र से कई लोग, यूपी बिहार ऑल ओवर इंडिया से लोग आज पार्टिसिपेट हो गए हैं, उन सबको भी मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ। प्रीति जी, सभी लोगों से अभी थे, कुछ समय पहले थे वो। ओके, और या मेनी या और आपके स्कॉलर्स, हमारे स्कॉलर्स सभी मतलब इसमें पार्टिसिपेट किए हैं आज के इस प्रोग्राम में। सो ठीक है, आज हमें बल फिजिकली नहीं आ सकते हैं एक साथ, क्योंकि आरसी का नेचर ही ऐसा है कि कोई क्लास नहीं हो सकता इसका। इट हैज टू बी डेल्ट विथ लाइक दिस ओनली, एंड वी विल डेफिनेटली कंटिन्यू in some of the other kind of maybe the format in future also. So I think thank you very much for all the support provided by the Secretariat and President and Secretary of the Indian Sociological Society, RC conveners of all the other RCs, and my dear colleagues, members of this particular RC, and actively participated all the members from the various field in this particular lecture. Now, Vinita ji, please, vote of thanks to from your side, okay, formally, and then we can close. Yeah.
Okay, as we come to the end of this enlightening lecture, so it is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. So on behalf of RC-29, first and foremost, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our distinct speaker, Professor Vishwaraksha ma'am, for sharing your valuable insight and expertise with us today. Ma'am, your knowledge and experience have provided us with wealth of information and inspiration. We are truly to have had you here. Thank you, ma'am. My sincere gratitude to a very senior member of RC and Asutosh sir. May the blessing of elders continue like this, so that we can do even better in the future. Thank you, sir. We are also grateful to our participant for your active participation, for your active engagement and enthusiasm. Your thoughtful questions and participations have enriched the discussions, made this session more interactive and valuable. Thank you. And my sincere thank you to convener Professor Sampat Kale sir for your meticulous planning and coordination. Sir, your hard work and dedication have ensured the smooth execution this event, making it great success. And lastly, I would like to thank everyone who contributed to making this event memorable and impactful. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thanks
you
a
so
lot.
much. Thank you. See you all at
Thank
the
you,
All
sir.
India, whoever
Absolutely.
is coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thanks a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And thank you,
Yeah.
Boinu. for all the support.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Boyani ji. Yes,
thank you.
yes. Yeah, yeah.